As the world's sole superpower, the United States stands in the unique role of world superpower. Central to maintaining this position as the top economic and military powerhouse in the world is America's policies on defense and foreign relations. As the dominant military power, the United States possesses the capability to strike any foe anywhere in the world. As a world leader, America maintains relations with every nation on the globe, and diplomatically is the most active nation on earth. These principles were built upon centuries of experience and have been carefully crafted into the policies of the United States. In attempting to understand these policies, we must first understand how America organizes its defense. At the top of the organizational ladder, the President of the United States acts as the Commander-in-Chief, keeping with the concept of civilian control of the military. The National Security Council advises the President on national defense policy, although technically the National Security Council does not have any specific rank within the organizational structure. The Secretary of Defense acts as the de facto deputy commander of the military, who is also a civilian. The actual military commander is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who, together with the commanders of the respective branches of the military, directly controls the policy aspects of the military, as dictated by the President and the Secretary of Defense. These policies are then implemented within the various branches of the military by the respective commanders of those branches. In relation to all of this is Congress, which holds a very distinctive level of control over the military. Although the President can dictate overall military policy and can deploy troops at any time, an act of Congress is necessary to declare war, and congressional support is absolutely necessary for continued support of any offensive military action. Congress attempted in 1973 to assert more control over this with the War Powers Act, which required executive notification of Congress of the deployment of troops within 48 hours, and forbid military forces from staying deployed for more than 60 days without congressional approval. Although technically law, the act has been ignored by every president since being enacted. Conflict has shaped the way in which the United States has developed its foreign policy. Although America entered onto the world stage with its impressive victory over Spain in the Spanish-American War, America didn't truly become a world power until the First World War, when men and materiel churned from American factories turned the tide of war in favor of the Allies. America, however, did not fully take into account the lessons learned from World War I, and as a result, she paid dearly at the start of World War II. But, for all the damage caused within the first 6 months of the war, America rebounded, and by the end of the war had developed into a colossal military power. This time, America heeded the lessons it learned, and with the rising threat of communism, America would no longer stand idly by as the world crumbled. Containment became the new policy of America as we sought to prevent Comrade Lenin from spreading his filth around the world. The end of World War II also ushered in a new era, that of the atom bomb. The Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs combined killed 250,000 people, and while they brought to an abrupt close the Second World War, they in turn introduced a new period of fear and aggression that to date has not been rivaled. The power of these first bombs was soon trumped by the advent of the thermonuclear, or hydrogen bomb. Hundreds of times more powerful than the bombs dropped on Japan, these weapons represented a quantum leap in the capacity of destruction mankind was capable of. The power of these weapons was first demonstrated on November 1st, 1952, at Eniwetok Atoll in the Pacific. Ivy Mike, the first hydrogen bomb, had a projected explosive yield of 5 million tons of trinitrotoluene, the chemical explosive known as TNT. The explosive yield was actually much higher. Due to a runaway reaction, Ivy Mike exploded with a force of 15 megatons, and ranks as one of the dirtiest nuclear tests on record. Both the United States and Russia understood the power of the weapons within their arsenals, and accordingly they attempted to limit the scope of these weapons of mass destruction. The first major step towards this was a moratorium on all nuclear weapons testing enacted in 1958. However, this was broken by the Soviets 3 years later, when on August 30th, 1961, the Soviet Union detonated the largest and most powerful nuclear device in human history. The Tsar Bomba, literally the Tsar Bomb, or king of all bombs, had an explosive yield of 50 megatons. The weapon was initially designed to have an explosive yield of over 100 megatons, although fears of radioactive fallout forced the Soviets to reduce that explosive yield by half.
Вторая отраженная ударная волна. Постепенно пары воды, сконденсировавшиеся до фронтом ударной волны, рассеиваются, раскаленное облако уходит вверх, увлекая за собой гигантский пылевой столб.
Tested on the major Arctic island of Novaya Sevolnaya, The explosive force of the bomb was enough to cause third-degree burns more than 100 kilometers away and shatter windows as far away as Finland. Although detonated at an altitude of 10.5 kilometers, the fireball nearly touched the ground and almost incinerated the aircraft from which it was deployed. No other nuclear weapon in history has even approached the power of the Tsar Bomba, although ironically, it was one of the cleanest nuclear warheads ever detonated. In response, the United States created Operation Dominic I and Operation Dominic II, a series of 105 nuclear tests conducted in 1962 and 1963 around the Pacific and at the Nevada test site. Of these tests, the most spectacular, though not the largest, was the 1-megaton Arkansas shot. Concurrent with Operation Dominic was Operation Fishbowl, a series of atmospheric tests of nuclear weapons. One of these tests, codenamed Starfish Prime, created an artificial aurora borealis over Hawaii and fried most of the island's electronics. The deployment of nuclear weapons, as well as the advances in destructive power, led to the development of a simple concept: mutually assured destruction. It became a simple case that if the United States sought to destroy the Soviet Union would destroy the United States, and vice versa. Although augmented by the Strategic Arms Limitation Treaties and Strategic Arms Reduction Treaties, which sought respectively to halt the development of nuclear weapons and reduce the world's stockpiles, the overall driving force that ultimately prevented all-out nuclear war was a simple assurance that if you destroyed one enemy, you would destroy the entire world. The fall of the Soviet Union in 1991 meant that the United States was left as the world's only superpower. With the threat of nuclear war with the Soviet Union largely diminished, the U.S. took it upon itself to become the world leader in this new world order. By using its military and economic might, the United States has attempted repeatedly to spread democracy and improve the general well-being of the entire world. Unfortunately, this has not come without cost. After the brilliant successes in the Gulf War, the U.S. was lulled into a false sense of invincibility, a sense that was shattered in Mogadishu in 1993. Afterwards, the United States soon found itself fighting a new enemy, the common man. The U.S. military, focused for a half-century on defeating the military forces of the Warsaw Pact, had to contend with the new and dangerous threats of terrorism and asymmetric warfare. No longer would the U.S. face an enemy that fought according to centuries of rules and conduct. Instead, the common enemy of the United States wears civilian clothing, hides amongst the local population, and utilizes the ubiquitous AK-47 assault rifle and the deadly rocket-propelled grenade. So let us assume for a moment that you want to become a terrorist. For one, you have to hate America.
Silence! I kill you!
For two, you need training.
So look, as a suicide bomber, have you had training? Of course, we had the suicide bomber training camp. Ah, is that a nice facility? It used to be. What happened? New guy. The idiot tried to practice. And what did you guys learn from that? Location, location, location.
For three, you need to know how to use an RPG.
You got that on video. Oh, I got that on video.
And for four, you need to actually terrorize something.
So, what's it like to die? Do you see a white light? If you're dumb enough to watch the explosion, yes. No, I mean, some people say when they die, they see a white light. What did you see? I saw flying car parts. What was the last thing that went through your mind? My ass.
The terrorist attacks of September 11th forced the United States to react to international terrorism. The subsequent invasions of Iraq and Afghanistan pitted the United States against this new enemy. Given that conflict between the professional armies of the world decreases as the days pass, the United States has sought to change the manner in which it fights. The concepts of World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and the Persian Gulf, all of which served well in competition against standing, professional, or semi-professional forces, are being shifted in favor of creating a force that can deal with the insurgent operations around the world. The military is shifting from huge 17,000-man divisions that are notoriously difficult to transport around the world to smaller, more mobile 3,000 to 5,000-man brigades built around the Stryker infantry combat vehicle. This transition is further supplemented by the need to protect American economic interests throughout the world. Our dependence on foreign oil necessitates that we protect our lifelines to the Middle East from attack. The foreign trade that the United States has become so heavily dependent upon cannot be broken without causing severe damage to the American economy, although at this point, what more damage can be done? Thus, this new system promises to allow the United States military to meet any foe anywhere in the world at a moment's notice, as we can easily transport our military forces to and from the battle zones as needed. In conclusion, the United States has undergone a fundamental shift in its foreign policy since the end of World War II. From passivity to containment, from fighting professional foes to terrorists, the United States has undergone the most dramatic change in the nation's policy in all of human history. and all in the short span of 60 years. With these changes, the United States stands ready to meet the conflicts and complications that it will face through the end of the 21st century. American resilience, innovation, and perseverance, the fundamentals of the American economy, sound familiar? Means that the United States will continue to adjust to the changing nature of global politics for many years to come.